There's a man within the gaming industry known for pushing a project to its limit, for jamming in so much content that only a handful of people will see. A man that's been making games since the industry's infancy. We're talking the man, the myth, the legend, Hideo Kojima. Hideo Kojima is one of the most creative game designers of all time. With his cinematic stories, eyes for detail, and constant quest to make better games, I couldn't help but fall in love with his crown jewel series, Metal Gear Solid. But all good things must come to an end. Back in 2015, Kojima left Konami. And with Konami's attempt to remake Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater, one only imagines how they plan on replicating Kojima's magic. Well, they found an answer, and that is... just copy him one-to-one. That's right, my worst fears have been confirmed. Konami is taking Snake Eater's map, story, and even original recordings and just upscaling them. Now, there's a lot of issues with this. It's lazy, the cutscenes look weird, and just the soul-crushing disappointment of not getting anything new. The only truly impactful new mechanic confirmed for Delta is modern controls. Free aiming while moving, crouch walking, and I wouldn't be surprised if you can even sprint. Hello, speedrunners. And I get there's a lot of pressure to remake Metal Gear Solid 3 because it's amazing. Some say it's the best Metal Gear game, but Snake Eater was made during a different time. Everything from the gameplay to how the cutscenes are shot are dictated by a technology that's a quarter century old. Plopping modern features into an ancient map is going to break the game. Look at Twin Snakes where the first person aiming nearly trivialized every challenge. And it's hard not to think that's gonna happen to Delta without some tweaks. Instead of a complete one-to-one remake, Delta should look to reimagine Snake Eater the way Capcom reimagined the Resident Evil series. Yes, some of what Capcom removed is controversial and frustrating, but as a whole, the Resident Evil remakes maintain the spirit of the original games, yet deliver a brand new experience. Emphasis on new experience. It's what allows new and old gamers to come together and share something special. But the difference for Konami is how tight Snake Eater is. How can you cut or alter something that's been personally crafted by Hideo Kojima himself? And honestly, what would you even take out? Snake Eater has absolutely no filler. Well, almost. Each section presents its own unique fun challenge that's never unfairly difficult, making every part of the game incredibly memorable. So wanting to keep the events the same makes sense. But a direct one-to-one remake is a bad idea. Snake Eater just wasn't balanced to include crouch walking. I pray that they change something, but as it stands, it seems to be just one-to-one, right down to its cutscenes. And I think the cutscenes and recordings being exact duplicates are what really upset me, because they're such a core feature of the Metal Gear Solid franchise. And I understand trying to tackle the world Hideo Kojima created is like breaking a bottle then trying to glue it back together. Kojima's world building could be described as rich, maddening, idiotic, ridiculous. They're all correct. Why would anyone want to mess with that? Plus, I could totally see Metal Gear Solid fans taking to the streets if the lore gets messed up. So, if Delta was a one-to-one remake out of some deep respect to a brilliant auteur, then all would be forgiven. But let's not kid ourselves. This is Konami. They don't care about art. They just care about them Benjamins. They think people will just buy a Snake Eater remake regardless. And the worst thing is... they're right. It doesn't matter how much I hate it, how lazy it is, how, despite being basically told not to expect anything new, I'm still holding out hope and buying it day one. I don't know what to say, I don't have any control. Here's the thing, since a portion of gamers are going to buy Delta regardless, why not just severely underpay a dedicated team and just let them go to town? As a franchise, Metal Gear is 37 years old. And it seemed to touch a lot of people. People who are now well established in their careers. I can't imagine that finding talented people who love Metal Gear is difficult. These are the people I trust to make that true Metal Gear Solid 3 spiritual successor. Knowing the people who really care about Snake Eater and Metal Gear as a whole aren't the ones taking the helm at these remakes makes me incredibly depressed. I mean, there's got to be people who die for the chance to bring Metal Gear Solid back from the dead. Corporations typically thrive at exploiting people's passions. You'd think this would be right up Konami's alley, but no, they're too lazy even for that. Which is a real shame on multiple levels. The cutscenes, a Metal Gear Solid staple, are shaping up to look terrifyingly weird. I don't know if it's the uncanny valley or not, but everything just looks so stiff and lifeless. That's because this game is just dressing up cutscenes that were generated with technology that's 2 decades old. Just think how the art of mocap has improved since the PlayStation 2. This issue becomes extra apparent when comparing what we see in Delta with Phantom Pain. Released nearly 10 years ago, Metal Gear Solid 5's characters just seem so alive thanks to their natural movements. It's obvious that Delta is a major step backwards. It doesn't matter how detailed Naked Snake is if he moves like a wooden puppet. I mean, when TV shows and movies get remade, directors aren't reshooting it shot for shot. No, they understand that with time, audiences' sense and sensibilities change. And to appease the current generation, things need to be altered. It could be updating the story, or creating things that were once thought impossible thanks to current technology. Konami has got to understand this. That's why I'm stupidly maintaining my expectations that Metal Gear Solid 3 Delta will have something new. I already made one video on 11 things I'd like to see added to Delta, and I could make more. Think that after meeting Grennan, maybe a scientist sees through your disguise, which results in him sounding the alarm, forcing Snake to fight his way out, similar to Metal Gear Solid 4's Chapter 1. Maybe blowing up ammo caches or storerooms alter how this sequence plays out. Or instead of just dragging Rykov to the locker room, Snake has to stalk him throughout Groznygrad in order to pick up on basic habits and mannerisms. I imagine it playing out similar to one of those bonus objectives from Phantom Pain where you stalk your target. Snake Eater is bursting with mechanics ripe for change. Yet every new feature Konami's confirmed has been really shallow and lame. I mean, the whole cosmetic injury memory system? People are excited about that? Really? Either Konami paid for a super expensive bot package with high engagement, or Metal Gear fans are truly desperate for anything. Because this is lame. So why am I spending precious life energy making a video complaining about a game that I'm going to buy no matter what? It's because how much I love Metal Gear Solid. Growing up, it was one of my favorite franchises. The characters and stories always felt so grand that they blew my mind. Even now, as an adult, when I need that strength to push myself to go that extra mile, I hear Solid Snake's voice. Honestly, Metal Gear Solid is just awe-inspiring. I said awe. A-W-E. That's better. What I find most impressive about Metal Gear Solid games is how they evolve as the series continued. Each iteration carried with it key aspects of its predecessors and then morphed them with contemporary technology. Even when sequels released on the same console, Kojima wasn't satisfied with just copy and pasting the same game with a different story. Truly, evolution is what makes a Metal Gear Solid game a Metal Gear Solid game. But Delta doesn't evolve the series. It's just a lazy rehash, which breaks my heart. I want people who have never played a Metal Gear game to love it. I want them to experience the Metal Gear magic of getting lost in the world and immersed in the gameplay just as I was. But that's not gonna happen with a one-to-one remake. The experiences created 20 years ago won't leave a lasting impact today. Konami needs to accept that Hideo Kojima is not coming back to work on Metal Gear Solid and stop leaning on him. While Metal Gear Solid 3 is strong enough on its own to survive this direct one-to-one hell, Sons of Liberty and 1 are not. This was Konami's one chance to play around with what works, and they're blowing it. Konami really only has one shot to bring Metal Gear Solid back from the dead. Which is why I'm begging you, please, don't buy Metal Gear Solid 3 Delta if you can. If you want to play Snake Eater the way it was intended, there are now multiple avenues for you to enjoy it. But Konami's greed and laziness cannot be rewarded with Delta. Please, have strength.